Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Bill. This video is a Star Wars recap. This is what happened last Sunday, and surprising to me, writing all the information down on what happened last Sunday from a player's perspective. Remember, I'm not running this game. We end up with a little over a page worth of information for me to go over. So I'll mostly be reading from the text, so if that's a little too boring, sorry. Play it back at like double speed and just listen. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy the recap of what's been going on in our Star Wars game. Where we last left off, we are on the Sith homeworld. We were given 2 missions. We have fulfilled one of the 2 missions, which was to sabotage the assassin droids. Our next mission, our primary mission, was to exchange an item with one of the Sith masters that's been buried, retrieve his saber and leave his sword there. So with that, the first party, the party that stayed with the ship, I won't call them first party, the good guys that stayed with the ship, the ones that lean more towards the light side, or the ones that could have been enslaved, being the Wookiee and my personal slave, decide that moving the ship is a good idea. So they leave this port that's right outside the academy and move to the other side of the ravine, wherever that landing platform is. They pay the fees and whatnot. Meanwhile, my group that I'm with Doug and I'm with a Mandalorian. If I didn't mention it last game, the Mandalorian was with us when we were trying to get entrance into the academy. Last recap, sorry. The Doug, with his mind control, gained access, and then me with my move object gained access, and a little bit of talking that I had to do. From there, we talk with the head person of training, and he's a little crazy, and we get some information, and then he has us directed to our rooms. So we go to our rooms. The Mando had to go to the slave quarters. Here we gain access to a data console. So I start searching for some information on the data console. My computer use is okay, just not great. And with that, we get some information on some caves located right before the valley of the dead, the valley of the fallen Sith. And from there, we get information that the archaeologist goes to those caves often, and we need permission from the archaeologist to get access to the valley. So me and the Doug decide, well, hey, let's go get permission. Let's go find the archaeologist. So in our dealings, we decide to pick up the Mando because the Doug's using the Mandalorian as the bodyguard. He's a slave. The Doug's calling him a slave to the Doug and his bodyguard. So that's hilarious, especially the fact that they're letting him walk around like that, armed and everything. Well, we enter the area and start searching around. We find the 2 caves. The information we also got gave us detailed on a couple of creatures. Well, the Doug goes down one cave, I go down the other. The Mando's there standing for, I don't know, a couple of minutes, and then he follows the Doug. The Doug finds a sort of a nest area at a fork in the path. Say the nest area was on the right side, almost straight from where he was going, so he goes down the left side after seeing it. The creatures didn't take much notice of him, but he wasn't making a lot of noise either, so there's a lot of good going on with that. And then the Mando's following behind. The Mando thinks that the Doug's being tracked by some bigger creature. I don't remember if that was true or not, but when the Mando goes over the comms, telling the Doug to wait for him or that he's being tracked by something big, he pretty much yells through the comms, which means he's yelling through the cave system, which means the creatures that were nesting were aggroed from that. And I know they had some combat. When that was going on, I just turned my comms off because I knew they could handle themselves. I wasn't worried about them. And that's the advantage of working with at least certain force users. You get a feel for if they can handle themselves or not. And the Doug, player-wise, the Doug can definitely handle himself. Character-wise, the Doug's pretty good. So we, after they do that, they head down further and they find a valley or a cave opening that's covered in crystals or crystal deposit areas where you could pick where they have growing out of them the crystals that would work for lightsabers. The Doug recovers like a dozen of them, I think. Excuse me. I could be wrong. If I am wrong, players that played in the game also put down how much the Doug got. But after he got that, that's pretty much where their side of the adventure stopped and my side of the adventure started. So I'm going down the cave. I'm seeing that the cave's been well traveled. I look around and I'm a little nervous because I'm not seeing the signs of life that they were seeing. So I turn on my lightsaber to use as a light source. I got my camera going around, filming everything, my camera droid. It searches around. We come to a valley or a big cave opening eventually. There's a ravine that cuts across the center of the room. There's a bridge that crosses it made out of stone. And then all across the ceiling are sith, what are they called? Hieroglyphics. So I record all of that. Sith writing, Sith hieroglyphics, everything. I then send the droid over to kind of scout for me. There's a big creature on the other side. It sees some Jedi robes and bones and stuff close to the creature. And then it finds, I notice on my data pad, so I have the droid move, that there's somebody in pretty much a split section of rock hiding from the creature. It looks like the archaeologist. So I'm sitting there trying to figure out how I'm going to handle this situation by myself. I take note of where everything is. I then use my move object to position my lightsaber so that it's pointing at the sleeping creature's neck. And then at the same time, I'm going to use my move force to move the archaeologist out of the hole and to me. And I turn the lightsaber on. The lightsaber hits the neck, but then just pushes itself out. Doesn't even pierce the neck. So the creature wakes up and starts throwing a fit and goes to attack me. When it sets itself up to charge, it pretty much headbutts the ground because it rolled a 1 for the first attack, which is hilarious. So I take that time to throw out my electric net that I'd gotten previously, which I don't think I mentioned in any of my notes. Before we started any of this, they approached us and said if we're willing to capture Mandalorians, we can get a couple of stun weapons. They gave us some stun grenades or prods and these nets, and I took the net for sure. Well, I throw it out on the ground. I'm waiting for the creature to charge. When the creature charges, as soon as its foot hits the net, I use the force to pull the net and pull the creature into the ravine, which works, surprisingly, which I'm very happy over. And the creature falls to its death. And then there's a swirling thing of force and light that happens after it hits the ground. Well, I retreat out of the rest of the party merges back with me. That was in the other section of the cave at this point. I recorded the whole combat, so I play that back to the guys. They get to be impressed. The players don't act impressed, but it's fun to say that they got to be impressed. And then I took all that back to the academy. She gives us permission to enter. I then give a fragmented copy of the hieroglyphic text to the Sith. Like, I purposely edited it where they only get chunks of it. And then I give them the two copies, two different people, copy of the video of me fighting the creature. And then from there, we enter the valley. We talk with the guards there. They're doing some cruelty training and whatnot. And then we enter and start searching for the location we need to find. And we need to find two locations. We need to find one location, pass the trial, get the key, and then go to the second location which fulfills our mission. So at this point, we go to the first tomb of our first location. The party that's away from us was as soon as they landed, they decided they were on their way over here. So they leave the slave on the ship, and then they head this way. They take the Mando's, what's it called? They took a swoop bike and head to the Valley Graveyard where we were at. And then they had to descend the valley. They left the bike up top of it and had to descend the valley in some fashion, which was hilarious to hear. I didn't pay too much attention. I know there was a lot of rolling, but I didn't pay a lot of attention to what was going on, who was succeeding and failing. But eventually they get to the bottom and they make it to our location. We wait for them before we go in. Then we go in, there's these colored robots set up in the ceiling. There's some charred corpses. There's a door. There's some colored rings. There's a big gem. We look at that. We problem solve. And then we figure out what the solution was to open the door. Surprisingly, we don't trigger any of the trap to do so. So we solved the puzzle correctly. For my gaming group, that's very impressive. I was very happy. I don't want to reveal it to you in case you all have a game master that's going to use it on you. But it was a very entertaining puzzle. Well, from here we were at a tomb itself, and we knocked the lid over, and the corpse is holding a silver sword, or silver looking sword, and that's the key we need to open the other tomb. We see a statue holding out some like an orb and a square block, and the statue has a mask on its face. What else was there? That's all I remember. I know there was one other thing there, but I don't think we acquired it. I think the game master told me about it afterwards. Well, we used the items in the hand to unlock the sword that was in the hands of the corpse. So we end up with the key. And I don't think we dilly-dallied too much after that. We just went straight to the other tomb. Excuse me. At the other tomb, the Doug had the key. So he sticks the key into the stone. Think like the opposite of pulling the sword out of the stone, he sticks the sword into the stone. And the ground shakes and starts descending, and he stays with the key, so the ground closes up over him. So he gets to have fun being underground with all the gears around him and everything. And then he starts turning the sword this way, then that way, then this way, then that way, then this way, then that way, just back and forth over and over again. And he does it for a good bit, just entertaining himself. Meanwhile, the rest of the party, which is me and everybody else, we start going through the the area, we start to see attack droids, defense droids, power up, power down, power up, power down, power up, power down. So we do our best to disable as many of them as we can as fast as we can. Not all of which was done with combat as much as I take the force, pick one of them up, use them to knock the others over, something like that. And we didn't do too much of that, but we did enough of that in the closer to the boss area, we felt safer. And I refer to it as boss area now, but when we were playing, we didn't feel like it was a boss area. Well, we enter the final tomb. At this point, the Doug has found a service passage that services the gears that are around him. So he crawls through the gears and crawls through that passage and gets to meet up with us. And when we meet up, we're meeting up in this the burial chamber. Well, this great Sith Lord is sitting on his throne, and he looks, I'll use some D&D terms here, he looks like a lich. A mummified lich. He has a saber on him. I show him video of outside of what the Sith are outside and how weak they are, and he starts going into a rage. So I unintentionally provoked him into combat with us, which is what it is. And then from there we fight him. We take a decent amount of damage from him, and we end up destroying his body. Well, his Force Ghost goes and sits on the chair. And then we ask him for the saber, and we give him the sword in exchange to leave for somebody to acquire later, which was our main mission. We do so. The saber radiates dark side, like real bad. So me and the Doug have hardly any problem holding it. But whenever my Padawan or the sand person touch it, they get hurt by it. So, I recovered a lightsaber when I fought the beast from the dead corpse. It burns me to touch, so it's strongly light side oriented. After this, we go back to our ship, which was hilarious, especially since it was like a 6-hour swoop bike ride from the ravine to the ship. Just saying that he carried everybody was just a hilarious image. We leave the planet. I take the time now I had acquired in one of our rounds of purchasing stuff, I'd acquired an orange saber crystal. So where my blade will be orange. So I decide with my new level, which I gained previous to this game here, that I'm going to craft me a new lightsaber. And I want to say I rolled maximum, but I'm not sure I rolled a natural 20. Either way, with all my bonuses, it was crazy high. So I construct my new lightsaber with anything and everything I wanted for it. As far as simple modifications go, but even the difficult ones would have been installed with the craft. It's just whether I had that material present or not. From there, I then have my Padawan construct his lightsaber. We use one of the blue crystals that the Doug found, and he makes him a lightsaber with it. I take apart the damaged lightsaber that had the good crystal in it, and I give that one to the two good characters, my Padawan and the sand person, and I'll let them figure out who gets it. The Padawan gives it to the sand person. He says, you can have it. So the Padawan gains an extra light side point for that, which was entertaining and fits his character. So from there, we take the artifact lightsaber and we disassemble it. Well, he asked me to take it apart, and I'm like, okay. Well, the worst thing I could do is destroy the damn thing by accident. So I roll my craft lightsaber, and I roll a natural 20 with the bonuses I was getting from the meditation on the ship at the time from the sand person. I ended up with like a 40 or 42 for my roll. So he's like, you take it apart with no problem. You can put it back together. You don't need to roll. Pretty much, you don't need to roll anymore to mess with this lightsaber. I know it inside and out. It has a larger than normal power source in it. He's telling me that I'm assuming that it won't ever run out of power. And then player-wise, now I'm assuming, how can we duplicate that? We don't need to do it right away, but how can we duplicate that? Because then we can start making potent lightsabers for ourselves. If he eventually gives us access to this, that'll be great. Really great. But it's not like we've ran out of power with our lightsabers while fighting, so it's kind of a moot point on that end, but just the idea is great. But I study the artifact saber a whole bunch. The Doug wants me to put he comes back later and wants me to put a tracking beacon in the saber, so I do so. Well, we returned to the Jedi homeworld. That was the destination after leaving. In doing that, we turn in the job. I give them video of my fight with the beast. I don't think I gave them video of my fight with that decayed Jedi. Or decayed Sith, I should say. I recommend, we get paid for our jobs. I recommend my Padawan for promotion since he crafted his own lightsaber. In addition to that, I gave them the copies of the stuff that said. I gave them copies of the Sith writings, full copies of it. We are ordered to destroy the Sith lightsaber. The Doug has it in his hand. He is ordered to destroy the Sith lightsaber. So he takes it to the table that they point to, and then he invites me over. He has me take it apart to destroy it. I take it apart in a process to put it back together, and we leave it in the pieces, and it is destroyed for all intents and purposes of the Jedi Order. And then we take that and we're going to eventually put it back together. Because of which, me and the Doug gained a dark side point. Well, that's very entertaining. We ended there because it was getting very late. But the next episode, next game, should have the trials that the Padawan's going to have to go through to become a Jedi Knight. So we will be very entertained to see what happens there. Especially since my guy was promoted without physically taking those trials. Well, until we all game again, may the Force be with you.